Good morning, everyone.
Hello, hello. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Thank you for joining us for our 11th consecutive week of Sunday sessions. This has just been absolutely amazing. As I kind of, stress every week that this has been, this has just been a little experiment for us. And that's really kind of how I approach life. I'm not in control of any outcomes for the most. Good morning. Oh my goodness. Hey there. Oh man, we love you. But we're very experimental when it comes to this stuff. And so we've been doing this for 11 weeks and y'all have been just absolutely amazing. Hanging in here with us, like incredible. Of course, as you're coming in, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube, hit that alert notification bell so you can get notified. Consider joining our community either on Patreon or through the YouTube membership program, and consider volunteering because dang, we need volunteers. Oh, thank you so much, Auntie. Thank you. We need volunteers. So holla at us, which we'll talk a little bit more about that in today's broadcast. And of course, we have some of the dopest merch in the game, right? We have hoodies, t-shirts. They say one says think responsibly, which is one of my favorite. It's kind of one of my slogans nowadays. You know what I'm saying? That our goal should really be to think responsibly. I need to get some snaps, some clips, and put them up here. I'm too poor to afford my own clothes. I'm gonna have to buy some so y'all can see them. Another one is Sacred Cow Grill Master, which is one of my favorite because I do the thing. Oh man, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, so let's see here. Of course, for those of you who have signed up for our email list or to volunteer, please check your spam messages as we try to remind you every week. And for those of you who have signed up to volunteer, please make sure to review the volunteer guide in our Discord chat. It is there, and bear with us because things are going to be wonky until we get volunteers in place to smooth things out. As of now, expect things to flow as about as efficiently as the Megazord operating of just off of 2 Power Rangers. If you can get that in your head. Man. And of course, check out last week's Sunday session. What was last week's? When people value people. And just it was an incredible conversation. I think so far it's outperforming last week's and the week before last conversations are outperforming most of what we've done before. So this has just been absolutely beautiful. And here we go. So upcoming projects, you guys know we've been talking about this. Me and my friend Kyle Butler are doing something a little different. We are doing the world's only ex-pastor call-in show. And this is going to launch in July. We'll be doing it once a month. And in this show, any questions you've ever had that you wanted to ask a pastor but felt uncomfortable asking or felt that they wouldn't be truthful or that they would be, prevented from answering the question clearly, or for those of you who have deconverted or deconstructed and you have questions that you want to ask about, what does life look like on the other side of faith? And even for those of you who may say, you know what, maybe I was never religious, but I could still benefit from some insight from some people who spent the majority of their lives trying to find a way to be valuable to people. Even though Kyle and I both agree that the former vehicle wasn't as great as it needed to be. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome in.
Glad to have you.
Now, due to some new partnerships that I'm engaging, and I have to be a little tight-lipped about this as of now, but due to these partnerships, we're going to be looking at changing some time. So we were originally looking at doing this show every Sunday evening. That's now going to create a conflict. So be watching out for what that day is going to be. And then even this show, our Sunday session show, we're probably going to move this back. Or I guess back up. I don't know how to say it when it comes to time. That's something I struggle with. It took me forever to know my left and my right. Don't judge me. Moving it earlier. So we'll probably, instead of launching at noon, we'll be launching at 11:30 Central Time. Let's see here. Oh, and we have group therapy coming up. We have
Thursday.
this
Yes.
Thursday. We're going to have
Oh.
Bossy with us. We're going to have Maya with us. We're going to have Tom with us. And we're having a conversation about what it feels like to be trapped in the closet. In other words, to have a socially unacceptable viewpoint of the world and to feel that you have to hide that viewpoint from others in order to be accepted. I think it's going to be an incredible conversation, and we are definitely looking forward to having you all in there with us. Babe girl, I'll let you go ahead and take over the broader community announcements.
Is this the last Sunday of this month?
Is it? Let's take a look. Let's look at my calendar wants to be slow right now.
So I hope your June.
Nope. We got one more Sunday.
Okay. We can squeeze one more.
This is the 5th Sunday month.
5th Sunday. All right. Well, as you know, Ichabod, on Sundays, they do the not church episodes with Brady Goodwin, Albert Kim, and Jay Witt. They have some great conversations as well, open forums. So check them out. I like how they do that, the kind of dialectics or dialogue and interaction.
What I love about the beauty of those, and for those of you who have not checked it out, Brady Goodwin is a former Christian rapper. He was a part of the group The Cross Movement. Hi, Maya.
Hi, Maya.
He was a part of the group The Cross Movement and recently deconverted a few years ago. Oh, that is awesome, Stephanie. Deconverted a few years ago, wrote a book about it, Let There Be Gaslight. If you haven't bought it yet, go ahead and get it. And then also Albert Kim and Jay Witt. Jay Witt is kind of in witness protection right now. So Jay Witt is kind of very much so in the closet in that sense. So the trapped in the closet conversation he may enjoy. But right now they're walking through the book of Romans. And it, man, I missed it this morning, but it has been in some incredible conversation. And so I will likely follow up and hit that. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intervene there.
Yes,
babe.
yes. Then we have Bad Science Sunday, every Sunday with Miss Maya Atkinson and friends. And last Sunday's conversation was hilarious.
It was. I was there.
Yeah,
I was there. I was a part of it.
It was great. And then you have Black Non-Believers has In the Cut every other Saturday.
Yep.
With Mandisa, have great conversations, and she does a broad kind of pulls in some history or political conversations.
Yep. Pretty much everything impacting Black people who don't believe.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I see Eeyore.
It was a highly. Yes, it was.
Yes, yes. And then you have Stacey's Mom podcast, who is on they go live on Mondays. They had a good episode last week, so check that out if you haven't already. Of course, Skeptic Haven has a variety of shows throughout the week. You can also keep up. And if you know anyone else who's doing some great work and just trying to build community, let us know as well in the chat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, babe. Now, of course, some of you, those of you who follow us in the community, you already know this. This isn't news to you. But for some of you, this might be some news. I released a new book this week.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. The name of this book is Christ Held Up, and it is now available via ebook and paperback on Amazon. And of course, obviously, as it says on the flyer, we're encouraging you to order your copy like now, not just today, but like right now. But no, I did want to, and I had not started sharing the screen yet. So let me share this screen because I want to show you all this. I'm excited about it. Let me see here. I'm going to share my window. I think that will make it easier, which means you're going to see my notes again. Yoink, which I don't care. See my notes. There's nothing mysterious about what we do here. So let's go over here to Amazon. So if you just type my name, whether you type in DaranteLaMar or DaranteLaMar Martin, guess what? You're going to see our book here. No, I don't want to do it that way. I just hide it. Thank you, Maya. That's so much better. Yes. All right. So, and for those of you that know, yes, I've written more than one book. Significant was my first book. And that gives you a little bit insight into my life, which I am working on another book right now. And I know this is supposed to be about Christ Held Up. But this other book that I'm working on is going to be me walking you through my life for those 10 years that I was in the closet as an atheist and what that really looked like and felt like. And so I'm walking you from 2014 all the way up to 2024.
Yeah, and if you haven't read the first bar, go get that one.
Yep. Because I actually finished this book in 2014, which was the same year that I became an atheist. And so, yes, which I didn't write about much of it in this book, but if you read between the lines, you can pick some of it up. Some of my closest friends who were pastors, those who kind of knew me intellectually, was like, "Yeah, it's just it was a matter of time." But this is also my first novel that I wrote, Memphis, The Last Supper. Ooh, what are some atheist books you would recommend to me? Oh man, I have a few. Well, the first one, bam, Christ Held Up. I would absolutely recommend this book. But no, there are a lot of great books. Sam Harris's The Moral Landscape and Letter to a Christian Nation are absolutely amazing. Letter to a Christian Nation shook me out of silent atheism. It was like, yeah, I have to say something. I have to speak up. And pretty much anything by Richard Dawkins is going to be good. Absolutely. And so, just as a special treat, since we did just release this book this week, and as you see, it's not very expensive. I'm not trying to break anybody's bank here, and it's not a long book, so it's $9.99 for the ebook and $16.99 for the paperback. And you can actually check out a sample right here on Amazon. Oh yeah, awesome. I'm actually still reading that one now, but I absolutely love it. Am I on the Kindle or the paperback? Okay, this is the Kindle. And so I want to read a little bit out of this for you so you kind of get an idea of what this book is about for those of you that may be interested. And this is ultimately the first chapter, which is the name of the chapter is basically the subtitle of the book, and that is What's Taking So Long? And even though this is the first book that I've written publicly as an atheist, I want you to notice that I don't use very much atheistic language in this book. So it is, what has delayed the return of Christ? What is the holdup? That would be the best way to ask the question. At this moment in history, we no longer have the luxury of pretending that he wasn't expected sooner. We are well past the awkward missing dinner guest phase. Now, I do not say this to make any sort of jest, only to make certain to deal with the most glaring elephant in the room in order that we may better engage our minds to the subject. And what elephant is that? The fact that Christ has been held up. After more than 2,000 years of patiently and dogmatically waiting, Christ has not returned to save the world. According to Western understandings of theology, Jesus has been on his way back since the day he left. Now, there is obviously tension present even in that statement, let alone regarding the day and hour of his return. An elementary question that should not be dismissed before it is soundly answered is, why would Jesus leave just to come right back? I would encourage the reader to dwell on that question for a second before continuing. Before it cannot be overstated that this has been the accepted understanding of the psychology of the disciples and the early believers, that though Christ had ascended into the heavens, they believed that he would be returning in their lifetime. One of the much debated episodes presented in the narratives of the Gospels indicates just as much. For it was the character we call Christ who instructed his disciples that some of them would not taste death until the second coming. It was clear, at least to the disciples, that Christ's sojourn to heaven would be brief. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus tells his disciples, truly I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. This statement led the disciples to believe that Christ's return would happen within their lifetime, suggesting a short absence. And even if it had been, which it has not, doesn't such a departure require questions of its own? Like, when did this become a part of the plan? Was there something back in heaven left undone that Christ had to hurriedly attend to? Was this pause on the play a test of the disciples' faith? If in all of our getting, we should be getting understanding, how have we wrestled with what came next? How have we sought to understand the purpose behind the pause? Because that's surely what it was, a pause, a Selah, if you will. It is an extraordinary scene when we allow ourselves to focus on both the imagery and the language. For even Christ says at one point in the Gospels, I am going to prepare a place for you. And in another, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. The question must still be asked, if Christ was leaving to prepare, what was left unprepared? Contextually, it could be argued that he is soothing the trauma inflicted by the inferences of his common crucifixion, Based on the language and behavior of the disciples, the crucifixion was an idea that they did not take to very well. I do not think that it should be overlooked that it was this week that he was betrayed. The same week he broke their heart with the truth of his impending death, and the same week he informed them that he had unfinished business elsewhere, was the same week that he was betrayed. It was the very week that one of his closest followers followed through on a temptation to hand him over. After being comforted by the one they had placed their hopes in with words such as, it is better that I leave you, it's a little too close to the it's not you, it's me routine. Understanding that such statements would not have made much sense to the disciples in the moment, imagine how much more confusing it would have been after being relieved by the resurrection, only to be confronted with the necessary ascension. After being gone for 3 painstakingly grim days, as the story goes, there was still apparently somewhere else to go, making this sudden miraculous reunion one that would be temporary. And that's not even a stretch of the imagination. Remember how Mary clings to him after the resurrection. Do you remember how the narratives paint the passion of the moment? She is so elated with relief to see her teacher that she runs to him and wraps all of her worries around him. And what does he say in return to his devoted follower? Don't cling to me. I haven't left yet. I am paraphrasing, of course, but yikes. Just put yourself in poor Mary's shoes. For one moment, let's forget all of the virtue that we've extolled upon her character and remind ourselves that Mary is a woman in the first century, a woman who is in relationship with a man whom she holds in the highest of esteem, a man whom she views as a wise teacher, a tender father, a concerned brother, and most importantly, her salvation. She has experienced the highest form of heartbreak imaginable, but with the rolling away of a stone, her mourning was turned into dancing. Her sorrows were turned into joy. For the ashes of the crucifixion, she received the beauty of the resurrection. And when she embraces him after witnessing the glory of his triumphant return, his response is considerably cold. I don't care what you say. Mary was hurt. She may have worn it well, but we cannot allow ourselves to forget the trauma of the faithful. And in the same way Mary's struggle is set before us on a platter, so is Peter, and so is infamously Thomas's. This is a jarring episode when the timeline is considered. He went away just like he said he would. He came back 3 days later just like he said he would. And he has all power just like he said he would. And right at the moment we're getting ready to rejoice that our Savior has died and risen again, he hits us with the news, at least if our current understanding of the text is accurate, that this isn't the comeback. No, I actually haven't even left yet. Yes, I was gone, but I hadn't gone up yet. But now that I've got the power, I gotta go. And I'll be right back. Put yourself in the shoes of the faithful characters and consider the internal confusion that must have arisen. As a side note, it should at least be asked as to what power did Christ gain from the earth or his brief sojourn within the earth that he didn't already have access to? And why would that power be on earth, not heaven? And why would he need to take that power to heaven? Understandably, that's quite a barrage of questions, but this is a book. You don't even have to press pause to pause and meditate. And while for some these questions may seem sacrilegious, I assure you that they are purely theological and strictly in the pursuit of gaining understanding. I'm gonna stop right there, but that's a lot. I didn't realize they gave that much of a sample. Like, wow. Okay, you know, they had materials on cults, high control groups specifically. I have read books on those. Yeah. Thank you, James. Thank you, James.
Great opener.
Great opener, right? Like that's how you get in there. But it's and just to give you all some context about why I wrote this book, these are all things that I wrestled with when I was a believer. Thank you so much, Maya. These are things that I wrestled with when I was a believer. And then I didn't just want to throw these theological conversations away, as I figured that they may be highly helpful for people who are either still in the faith or trying to help some of their family members. And so thank you all for bearing with us for that little reading moment. All right. Okay. So now we can kind of jump into the conclusion of our second series of Sunday sessions. All right.
Yes. Hello. Oh, you got it.
Oh yes, I am very familiar with the African People's Socialist Party. I have to be honest with you, I have some strong opinions about them as well, though. And because at the end of the day, I'm a results guy, and I don't see a lot of results. But that is a conversation I am more than willing to have. Cult type thinking is relevant to the issue I brought up in the. Oh yeah, for sure. And that is something that we actually added to the notes today. So that is something we plan on hitting. All right, so
let's get into it.
Let's get into it, right? Yes. Let me biggie size my screen. Yoink. And so today we're closing out this Sunday sessions series that we've been having called How to Human. And just to kind of stress again, this isn't, us telling anybody how to human.
Yeah.
This is us exploring, what it really means to human and how that has changed for us over the years. Beautiful, beautiful. And so we've had some amazing conversations so far in this. Have there been any highlights in this series so far for you?
I think when we kind of walk through when people live together, work together in general, and walking through how it evolved over time from ancient civilization into how we started to interact and exchange, and how business and economics played a role into how we treat each other and why we treat each other. So
for sure, that was definitely a highlight for me. I know that just the aspect of realizing like, oh man, how much of our identity is connected to business or trade or commerce or value. Much love. Or value, and it's amazing to me because that is something that I had not realized before, even before coming into this series. What's up, Tom? But consider this is in the building. Even before coming into this series, wow, oh man, the party and so-called free speech. I don't know if that speaks to results though. Like that's the same thing like when conspiracy theorists said Tesla's work was so profound that the CIA took it and hid it from everybody else. And it's really hard to demonstrate. The results that I'd be speaking about which are the things that I advocate for on this channel. If anybody believes something is an economically viable way for people to do life together, there's nothing stopping you from partnering together and doing life that way. But mind you, I am very highly critical of all political unions. Now, mind you, I've studied at the feet of people like Dr. John Henrik Clarke. I've studied at the feet of Hubert Henry Harrison. I've studied at the feet of Chancellor Williams, Carter G. Woodson. I've studied at the feet of Marcus Garvey. I have studied at the feet of Malcolm X. I have studied at the feet of Philip Randolph. And so I don't buy into ideals as easily as some may, because I have to measure those ideals against the backdrop of history and how well those ideals played out. And so that's typically where I go. And that is actually at the core of what I was saying, but we will. All right. So today's conversation is people are people. When people are people. So we talked about when people met people, when people lived with people, when people worked with people. Last week, we talked about when people value people. But this week, as we're closing out this conversation, and this week is not note heavy because I wanted to leave room for us to actually engage. It helps me a lot to even see the comments. But so let's jump into this. A few years ago, and baby girl, you remember I started saying people are people. That was my thing. And people used to get mad at me about that. And I remembered when, because I was working at my mentor's church one time. And we were all in the office. It was me, Leslie, and Ryan, and Tip. And so we're all in the office at my mentor's church, and they're talking about something that somebody has done, you know, and they're just so shocked, so shocked that this person has done these things. And they're like, you know, I just can't believe this. And my response was, well, people are people. And Ryan, who was a dear friend of mine, he's passed now. Man, that just reminded me that Ryan has passed.
Yeah.
But Ryan looked at me, you know, because he was a really Christian, you know, well-meaning guy. And he says, well, Darante, that sounds kind of cynical. He said, it sounds very cynical that you would just say, well, you know, people are people. And I'm like, well, no. And this was me. Exactly. Yeah, people are people. I tell people all the time, like, if my neighbors, and they're just the sweetest people ever, but if the news crew showed up tomorrow and said my neighbors had sex slaves in their basement, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. That tracks. Just because people are people, you know. But he thought I was being cynical. And I guess it does kind of sound cynical to some people. But what I did for him is I tested, no, friend, that's biblical. It's not cynical. Jesus says, and I think I recently did a video on this one, but Jesus says, call no one good.
Call no one good.
Either not even me. And so,
but we do it anyway.
We do it anyway, right? You know, we got all these songs. You're a good father and all that stuff. You know, it is what it is. Exactly. You know, so I developed that idea, or, you know, and I say it like it's something deep, and it's really not deep, you know, because like Maya's come to the same conclusion. People are people. I spent a considerable portion of my life extremely disappointed in people, primarily based on unrealistic expectations that I had attached to human value. Yeah. I mean, I like the way I put that in the notes, because that was just good. I was extremely disappointed based on my unrealistic expectations. And I'm not saying that my expectations weren't warranted. You can have warranted expectations that aren't realistic. And my expectations of my parents weren't realistic. They were warranted, but I had no evidence to ever think these people were going to be better parents. It wasn't something they were aiming for, you know. So anyway, and then you attach, and for me, in my mind, I attach these things to human values. So in my mind, bad people did bad things. Good people did good things. Yeah. And you can see how that comes from religious superstition, where you can be tempted to literally just kind of oversimplify something as complex as humanity, and just say, no, bad people are the people that do bad things, and good people are the people that do good things. There's so much us versus them. Yes, it sounds, man, but if you walk around with those rose colored, come on, man, you're preaching. God damn, preach, damn it.
That's just the understanding that everyone is capable of upsetting you in a way.
Or doing man,
that you wouldn't expect.
Oh, okay. She just said everybody is capable of doing something that you wouldn't expect. Everybody is capable of doing something that you may consider harmful, that you may consider hurtful. And I mean, everybody is capable, because I think one of the things, and there was a book that you and I were working on. We haven't finished it yet, but one of the things we mentioned in that book was romantic fragility, where you get this romantic fragility based off of in many cases what we've been exposed to on through media, that says, you know, if somebody really loves me, they'll never be disappointed in me. If somebody really loves me, they'll never do anything that hurts me. And that's just like, oh, that's such an unrealistic view of life, because as I've shared in one of the videos before, hurt isn't always intentional.
It isn't always intentional. And I think having titles affects that, because when we look at our parents, when we look at our if you have pastors or mentors, or even if you follow motivational speakers and they're like you're in your totem pole, in a sense, depending on a person's title depends on the weight of what you hold them to. And I think that gets us lost in a lot of disappointment or frustrations or unrealistic expectations. That affects how we maneuver and view life from that.
All right, so and I'm glad you said that, and we're off track here, but I'm gonna mention one of my pet peeves that's probably gonna make me a little unpopular. I don't like it. When we critique the church, when we critique the church, and this is one of the things, and because I still have relationships with people who are pastors, and this is something I share with them immensely. I find it completely dehumanizing the way pastors are often treated, and that's not going to make it easier for pastors to come out of the closet, by the way. So, and this is a little off subject, but like something I heard earlier this week, and it's very common in the atheist community. People are like, oh, pastor is the easiest job in the world. And, you know, to anybody who says that, I want to say a royal fuck you. And I mean that from the depths of my fucking soul. Fuck you. There's no job where you are dealing with people that is easy. And so please stop dehumanizing those people that way. Just because we don't believe what they believe does not mean that they are not working hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop that bullshit. That is incredibly dehumanizing. These people, in spite of what you see on TV, many of them sacrifice their whole lives. Many of them sacrifice their relationships with their families. Many of them sacrifice raising their own children because they bought into this delusion. And they are just as much victims as those people you feel sorry for. It is absolutely ludicrous to feel sorry for the people in the pews and not feel sorry for the people in the pulpit. So I have no respect for that. And I mean that. I'm sorry. I was supposed to be making another point. What was the other point I was making? What did you bring up?
I was talking about when people have titles.
Oh, yes. So a pastor's value to his church community is to perform the preaching aspect, to organize that community.
For sure.
And come on, man. Tell Tom, let him know. Let him know in the background. But organizes that community, oftentimes has to counsel people or be told that you don't qualify as a pastor if you can't counsel me in this thing that you really need to be going to see a therapist for.
Yeah.
You know, there is so much that they actually have to involve themselves in. Dang. And none of that has anything to do with their sexuality. None of that has anything to do with their sex lives. So it really bothers me when atheists who are supposed to be thinking from the critical thing use the same arguments that Christians do against pastors. It's traumatic for all involved. Absolutely. Because then you take this man who has done his job well and say, because you slept with somebody that I don't agree with, you're now no longer valuable. Yeah. That grinds my gears. I cannot stand that shit. That's why I left Christianity. So to see atheists behaving the same way sometimes, I'm like, what? The unfair power dynamics. Yes. That those who have less power can be just as awful too. Yeah. That's a whole word there. Which you were going to say something, baby? Go ahead. I was saying it is. It really is, right? Yeah. And it kind of brings us right back to the notes. And that is that I was at that place where I thought, you know, if you're a good person, if you did good things, you're a bad person if you did bad things. And now I just realized that, no, people just do stuff. People do stuff. And good and bad can often live on a spectrum that is just as complex as the human experience.
And that's why you're never shocked. Like when you hear, oh, so-and-so did this, or these people were doing this, and the other people in the world be shocked. If you understand people are people, you're not as shocked. You're like, I can see that.
I mean, like, we have history. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like history is here. You can look through history because people are people. That's right. Like, you know, I think last week we kind of talked about, we pretty much did. Man, I judge them for how they use. Yeah, I like that. I do like that. I love that. Man. Yeah, my disappointment now is only attached to agreed upon expectations. And even then, the disappointment is minimal. And so I think I've shared before because Saf was in one of our chats and it was just at one of those points because he and I had a conversation where he thought he was going to be telling me something that was incredibly disappointing. And that's because a lot of times that's the undue pressure we put on each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bruh, I don't live in your house. I don't sleep in your bed. You don't pay any of my bills. I don't pay any of yours. Your life really doesn't impact me. And you know, and that sounds horrible, right? It sounds like, oh, you're being a jackass. But this was probably one of the most comforting things that I could have told him. I don't think any other human being had ever approached him that way. We're like, bruh, man, like you and my exact words were, you and I didn't have an appointment. So you couldn't, we don't, there can be no disappointment here. But calling pastors a scam, that's the scammers, that's dehumanizing them. To say that pastors, that all pastors are purposefully trying to scam people, that's illogical, because you believe that those people in the pews believe the scam. So why can't you believe that the pastor also believed the scam, especially considering that the pastor would have started in the pews? So if we believe that the people in the pews believe the scams, and we understand that pastors come from the pews, then we need to understand that these people actually believe it. And if you have sympathy for the people in the pews because you believe they're being scammed, then for you not to have sympathy towards the pastors is 100% a bias. That's not based in logic. And so that's why I'm like, no, calling all pastors scammers is irresponsible and it's dehumanizing. It is dehumanizing. Because then what we're typically doing is we're holding them, which is kind of what I just hit at, we're holding them to Christian standards, and we're not Christians. So we're saying you're a scammer because you're not a good Christian. And we don't even believe that there's a such thing as a good Christian. We believe that people are people and that there's no Holy Ghost anointing or special friend that's going to make you any less, any less of a person than anybody else. So if people are subject to these other things, then you're going to be subject to it too. And I love you so much, Sharon. Put her comment back up there. No, because but you know what? Like, I honor that because you have a right to be bitter. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to take that from you. Now, of course, I hope it becomes betterness, but I'm not one of those people who say, no, don't be bitter. No, you have a right to be. Everybody has to go through their emotional, their stuff. Because damn it, I did too. I cussed all my friends out. I cussed all of them out. I told every single one of them, you don't believe in hell. I told every single one of them,
Your behaviors.
The only scammer ultimately at the end of the day is yourself.
Good point.
Tom, you're a friend of my mind. My God. You can't get over hurt if you deny your emotions.
But I think this is a great conversation, because if we're talking about people and we tend to pick pastors out or those in ministry, and yes, there are a lot of foolishness that goes on, and as adults, we all should be at a place to realize what I know to be true today may not be true tomorrow. But if you're going to look at pastors that way, look at your motivational speakers. They have a similar pattern. They're telling you, pay me $10,000 to come to this conference.
And you get no community out of it.
$5,000 to come to this conference. And then when you go to their conference, guess what they're telling you? Believe in yourself.
Oh my goodness.
Push the bars, push the walls, go beyond your ceiling. They are preaching to you the same message, but people do not go on YouTube calling them out the same way. And you have to understand that our churches, especially I'm speaking from the Black church perspective, this is a place where we can employ each other. This is the place where we can build programs for each other to help our communities. Is everybody doing it right? No. Can we do it better? Yes, but that is up to us. If we want to make change, let us be the change instead of saying pointing fingers here and here.
Y'all done got to stir it up. Y'all did it. Y'all did it. Now, she don't normally preach, but y'all done did it. Y'all done did it. And done that is a great idea. I'm sorry. We're both clicking the comments at the same time. That's why. But that is a great idea. We do need to be more mindful of reading the comments for those who may be driving or disabled. And I don't know if y'all take this for granted or not, but we are one of the only channels that I've seen. And and there may be some, but we read all of our comments. And we won't do that on everything, I promise you. But for Sunday sessions, this is community. Yes, that is so good, Maya. This is community. And so even though we're all separated in different places and some of you are on chat, because this is community, we don't do in these conversations. There will be other conversations that we will, but in these conversations, we don't do super chat to get your comments read. I want to see your comments because I want you in this conversation, and this is community. And because of that, I definitely want to make sure that we are, man, I love it. I love it. I want to make sure that we're being mindful of those people who may be tuning in while driving, because the comments are just as much a part of this conversation as what we're sharing here. And so it's just, man, I love y'all so much. What makes this, and I'm gonna try not to cry here, but what makes this so beautiful to me, do you know how hard it is to have conversations in the church world and not agree? If you don't agree, somebody's the devil at the end of the day. If you don't, like, you can't work together, it is horrible. So it's always beautiful to me when we can have conversations and let each other own their emotions and have those emotions. But that's why this is called How to Human, because that's what this is about.
Learn how to work together.
And I'm going to wipe these little bitty crocodile tears out of my eyes because I told you it's beautiful. And I think y'all have only seen me cry once. I don't want to make that a habit.
That it's only about 20, but for sure.
Hell yeah. Yep. And yes, man, my grandmother and my mother are my rock, but we can't have these conversations. And that hurts. Absolutely. If you don't agree with either, yes, get kicked out or take their sons with you and let's make a new church. And Tom, we've seen a lot of that, right? Like that is the thing. Every aspect of God is alienating and it hurts so much. And that is definitely something that I've seen a lot of. My wife kind of remembers one of the things that I was saying when I first started communicating, why I'm an atheist. And I just started saying, you have no idea how many families I've seen ripped apart by the church. I've seen families just don't be afraid to cry, bro. I know, right? Even Rambo did it wrong. That's hilarious. Oh, that's going to make me laugh and cry at the same time. And that's just going to get ugly. That's going to get ugly. But I love it. I love it.
But that's good in conversation in general because we're talking about people are people.
Yeah.
We don't all have to agree.
Nope.
We don't all have to believe in the same things in the sense, but we should all come to an agreement on, okay, what are some results that we can put into place?
Yeah.
What are some action steps that we can put to move society forward into a better place of how we treat people? And there's so many topics and things to tackle in this world that we need everybody to help in doing that work.
Absolutely. Thank you, Don. So much love is being shared here. And that is for real. That is for real. Man, this is good. We kind of jumped off the notes a little bit, but I love it because this is what we want. We want real community conversations. I want people to even realize just that even expecting all of us to agree is unrealistic. We have no reason to have an expectation that we're all ever going to agree on anything. We have to replace these things, these symbols in our lives. Absolutely. And create community for ourselves where we can experiment with new possibilities because you can't leave it up to the people who's in charge. All right. I'm gonna use a quote from Michelle Obama, her first week on the Hill. They not that smart. You're like, I thought these people were bright. No, this is the planet of the apes, man. This is the planet of the apes. There is hope, Don. I'm a mom, grandmother, and it was my son that helped me get free from religion. Wow, Sharon, that is beautiful. Yeah. That is beautiful. See, I need y'all to be in the Discord because I need to be seeing these conversations in the Discord because this is how we help people. This is how we help people. Man, this is wow. This is beautiful, man. All right. So people are people. My disappointment now, and I think that was the last thing I hit. My disappointment now is only attached to agreed upon expectations. Agreeing on everything should not be the goal. Yes, ma'am. Diversity of thought shows you think for yourself. The goal should be critical thought. Absolutely. That's right. That's right. That's good. That's good. Oh, I think okay. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop. I'll just let you do it. Hello, just kidding. Much love though. For real, for real. For real. So now if we don't have an agreed on expectations, I feel no obligation to be disappointed in anybody. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the freedom I give with people who are in relationship with me. The closer you are, the more their expectations are tied. But I also identified a level of toxicity in this where I am now very careful about not wanting more for someone else than they want for themselves. Yeah. And the trick here is perspective. Just because I identify it as more, better, or good doesn't mean that they do. And so, and if I lean too heavy into that, I run the risk of being a toxic voice in their life, even if I consider my toxic to be good toxins. High standards is absolutely still necessary, but just remember that your standards are for yourself and those you engage in relationship with. And so that's what I've learned is that for if someone calls me and they say, "Oh man, I lost my job," what good does my disappointment do for them? Now my partner calls me and says, "Oh babe, I lost my job." Well, even then, disappointment isn't going to be very helpful. But disappointment is a more realistic emotion there, because this is something that actually impacts my household. What I begin to realize about us is that we allow ourselves to have, and that's later on in the notes. So I'm not going to go there because we're going to get that in the notes. But even when I consider myself, even if I think that, hey, I know better for your life, and this is something that you should want for your life. This is good for your life. Yay, pragmatic crystal is in the house. This is something you want for your. This is something I want you to have for your life. I think you should want this. I think you should want more. I think you should want more. And then I try to judge you according to what I think you should want. Yeah. And then when you're not going after that, I'm like, oh, you're not doing this. You're not doing this. Right. I've now taken my standards and put them on your life without any consideration of whether or not that's something you define as more. Right. Man, not a Sandy Hook ad. Yikes. Right. Oh my goodness. I am loving this, man. Here's the thing. One thing that was keeping me up last night was this feeling that there's a lot of anti-intellectualism in my generation, and it's endlessly frustrating for me. There is, for damn sure, there is a lot. Oh, I'm sorry. I said I would stop. I said I would stop. I keep doing it.
What you doing?
I keep doing it. But no, there is a lot of anti-intellectualism, and honestly, I don't even think it's just your generation. I saw it growing up. Many of my peers, and not just my peers, but my parents, and much of my community. One of the reasons that I decided that, okay, I cannot do this church thing anymore, was primarily because of the high amount of anti-intellectualism in it. But what's worse than anti-intellectualism for me is the pseudo-intellectualism, because that's what has really allowed the anti-intellectualism to run rampant. Is that we have people who think they're talking intellectually, hint, hint, Billy Carson, Terrence Howard, who are not. Man, very much. Wow. Decrease that. Let's get an anti-intellectual, because Africans are being targeted for damn sure. Saw a 50% decrease in African student enrollment. Absolutely. But I do want to point out that a part of that attack, though, is coming from, or part of that target is coming from the Black community itself. Because I know, like I have to go out of my way to rail against people when they do this. But there are so many people who tell Black kids that college is not for them. There are so many people who tell Black kids that they need to go to trade school instead, that they need to become plumbers and electricians. And I would love to say that those are white folks saying that to them, and it's not. And that is one of my issues with the community as a whole, is that a lot of times we're not very honest about some of our self-destructive habits, about some of the damage we're doing to ourselves. Because the truth of the matter, can't nobody destroy a people from the outside. A people can only be destroyed from within. And the more we begin to take that seriously, the more we can start doing better for ourselves. But you are absolutely right. The trends of anti-intellectualism, especially in African communities, it is highly alarming. Deep diving into how I enable others to disrespect me. Ooh, babe, read that one out. Yeah.
I'll start from where you want to start from?
You can just start it from the beginning because
I've been MIA lately as I'm deep diving into how I enable others to disrespect me. It's a hard and deeply filled process that leaves me with little to share with others while I'm processing.
That's deep. That's deep. I lived there a long time myself.
But the results are
totally worth
it.
it. Yes. Yes. I had to realize that a lot of the disrespect I had in my life, but I read about the whole acting white charge. Oh yeah, I think even Barack Obama called it out as president and did, for sure. A peoples can only be destroyed from within. That's it. That's it. Sending virtual hugs. Yay. And for sure, I definitely had to realize that I got to a place in my life where much of the disrespect I had in my life, I had enabled. And enabled, not just trying to say that, oh, I was just being so irresponsible, but it was this sense that I had accepted an ideology where I didn't have a right to be me. I didn't have a right to defend myself or to defend the way that I thought. So I was literally for a very long time everybody's doormat, everybody's victim. Which is why people are a little jarred by this version of me because they're not used to it. They're used to a version of me that just smiled and if you were hurt, then I was just like, oh, that's all that matters. And now I'm just like, nope. Yep, that's it. Self-doubting. For
sure.
Man, bought into every conspiracy. Yeah. Yes. It's there. It's there. When I realized that everybody I knew who believed in the Illuminati also believed in Jesus, I was just like, all right now. All right. This enabling disrespect. I am an expiring social worker, only an undergrad, and my therapist said to me, now is not the time to take on clients you aren't qualified and not being paid for it. Wow. Oh man. I kind of like the way they did that. Okay, so all right. Okay, so people don't owe me their living. That's where this comes to, this thing that people are people. They don't owe me their living. They don't owe me their losses. They don't even owe me their loyalty. Nothing I do for people should give me that. That was a thought I had. People don't owe me their lives. They're not living their lives for me. So it doesn't help the idea of rational, objective scientific thinking being a white supremacist construct is an increasingly popular idea in extensively social justice-oriented circles. For sure. I don't think that has changed much, though. It's always kind of been like that. What's up? It's Sage. Yes, can we please get into the path from God to conspiracy theory for Africans and other colonized people? For damn sure. Oh, man. This is good stuff. I love y'all. But yeah, so nothing I can do for others should ever put people in a place where they should feel like they owe their lives to me. And I will be honest that when I was a pastor, I did kind of feel that. I felt that, if I've prayed over you and something good happened, you should be loyal to my church.
Is that why it hurts so bad when people leave?
Oh my goodness. It was traumatizing. And I didn't let that go just to say, oh, let me be healthier towards them. I let that go because that was unhealthy for me to act, because number one, people ain't gonna do what you want. That's not how people work. People don't work that way. But I definitely felt that way. That was one of the things I think you were here when I apologized to some of my former team members on the musical staff, where I said, here it is. I was paying you to be a musician, but I felt like you owed me your celibacy. Like, no, if you're gonna be at my church, you gotta be. It was like, what? No, like, and so then watch this. When people who were part of my church would do things that had absolutely nothing to do with me, such as go and fuck around with somebody, I felt betrayed. I felt hurt. I felt like, oh, you like after all the praying I've done for you, and you're just gonna go out there and join yourself with a harlot.
It's almost you take them more as children.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's crazy. Absolutely ahistorical. Even the modern scientific method was created by medieval. Come on, man, guy, for goodness sake, is just the start of why that's wrong. Absolutely. But yeah, so it's this idea that people don't owe me their lives, they don't owe me their loyalty. Nobody else owes me, because that's where that disappointment comes from.
I just finished watching David Milano on World of Antiquity channel doing a discussion on how people use history and race to bolster current theories of cultural ideologies.
Yep.
People are definitely people.
Definitely people, man. Like I'm pro technology, pro information, and all that stuff. But I do believe that one of the major downfalls of our heavy media and tech exposure is that we really think we know people we've never met. Y'all ever noticed that before? Like we really think we know people that we've absolutely never met. We form deep-seated opinions about people that we have never had conversations with, whether it's a reality TV star, athlete, politician, influencer, or business person. The more we see you on TV and the more we hear about you, the more we are able to convince ourselves that we know enough to have an opinion. And like, for example, many people, yep, I tell you, we do it. Like we do it. Many people do not like the fact that the rapper T.I. is married to the former singer Tiny. You know, I was also one of those people. Oh, I love that. Parasocial relationships. Yes. What's up, Alan? Nice to see you in here. Technological advancement in and of itself cannot be a negative thing. Absolutely. Technological advance under capitalism accelerates global destruction. I don't know if I'd say that. And I'll tell you why. I am not one of those people who say capitalism is ruining the world or socialism is ruining the world or communism is ruining the world. I think anytime we do that, you're removing yourself from what's actually doing it.
People, yeah, it all lines in.
It's people. I have a lot of friends who claim to be anti-capitalist, but seem to be very much pro-iPhone.
I'll be that person.
I love that. I have.
Yeah.
I have. I absolutely have. Like when I told you I'm not new to this, I'm true to this. And this is why I take many of the stances that I've taken. I mean, you could say that, but what's stopping the other people? See, to me, that's, and I know this is going to make me unpopular, but that's mathematically flawed. To believe that a tiny percent of people are controlling the behavior of a larger percent of people, you have to dehumanize the larger group of people in order to believe that. Class struggle is stopping the other people. I don't know. Like I said, I know that is the popular propaganda of the Socialist Party. I'd say you'd have to actually demonstrate that in the data for it to be true. And then even after you demonstrate it in the data, you'd have to ask yourself, then why are the people who don't agree with it participating in it? Because, and this is ultimately why I don't connect to a lot of the movements that claim to be fighting for these things, because they're all still participating in it. At any moment, you can stop participating and start experimenting on a new community. That's how we get new nations every day. But so when people, when I hear politically, the other side, what I don't hear is what we're actually doing. And so what I hear is they're too big, we're too small, we can't do anything. Is it dehumanizing to say eat the rich? I think so. I don't want to eat anybody. Yeah, sure. Yes, anything else is talk. That is right. That is right. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep doing it. Okay, I'm sorry. I keep doing it. We know this from basic marketing techniques. That is so true. People's behavior changes. Titan. Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. So T.I. and Tiny, that's where I was at. I don't know how I got to this other stuff, but T.I. and Tiny. T.I. is married to a lady named Tiny. A lot of people don't like the fact that they're married. A lot of people think that they're mixed matched. A lot of people think that, oh, why is this person married to this person? He's kind of pro community and stuff and is trying to do some things. And maybe she doesn't seem to come off that way. And what happens is, imagine the gall of having an opinion about who somebody else married, and you don't know either of the two people. But
Yeah,
people
so
take it
much.
so seriously. You got to.
Yeah.
Awesome. What business is it of ours? Exactly. Politicians and corporations throw a lot of money to get people to act in certain ways, not taking personal accountability out of it, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. No, I absolutely know it's happening, but to say that, because for example, I spent 10 years trying to highlight these things to my community, right? But to say that corporations are marketing towards people, which they absolutely are, right? To say that robs the person of they're a free agent. And so it's weird to me for us to say the corporations are forcing them to do this. Like the decision we made 10 years ago. Christmas is one of the biggest things in this country. We decided Christmas economically wasn't viable for us. There's nothing stopping people from making those type of decisions. There's not a government that's going to come into you and say, hey, if you don't bow down to our marketing, you're going to, we're going to do something to you. And so, as I brought up in many cases, you saying that, or any of us saying that, hey, these people are doing this, isn't going to stop them from doing it. So the question is, what do you do? Why would we continue to engage in things that are destroying us, and only blame the other side when blame is so fruitless?
Yeah, and that's a good point. There was a years ago when I was in a training class for a new job that I took on. There were the trainer was doing the icebreaker, and the icebreaker was name your favorite movies. You know how they do those, assume everybody has this in common. And one of the ladies was in it, she was a Black woman. She said, I don't have a favorite movie. I don't watch TV. I just read books. And everybody was like, oh, you don't have a favorite movie? You didn't watch New Jack City and all these other movies? And she was like, no, I just read. And so having us talking about this conversation, it should show you that there are some people who take that control in their lives, so much so that they monitor what they see, monitor what they do, monitor what they take in, listening to or visualizing, and that can solely disrupt your life in a great way. In a sense, right? And so you have control of what you watch, beloved. We have control of what we participate in, what we talk about, what we do, where we work. There's plenty of people that complain about work, that complain about companies, that complain about the people who are providing the jobs, and they themselves have no interest of starting companies that can employ their own people. They just feel, I should get paid. I should be able to come to work and barely do anything, to be honest, and get paid.
We've seen a lot of that.
And so we have control, right?
If we believe in human agency, we have control. Yeah.
I feel like we don't give ourselves credit, and that's been done in the church too. In the church, we always blame it on the devil. The devil is doing it. If you lose a job, the devil is doing this. If you got in a car accident and lost your car, the devil is doing this, or the enemy, or the haters.
Yeah.
It's like, no, life is happening. When you become an adult, what are you going to do? What are you going to learn?
Yep.
How are you going to change your behaviors? How are you going to impact others when you come in contact with them?
Yep.
So all of these things come into play.
For sure. The fact that this is good. Y'all, it's still your will. This is good. And these are the type of conversations that we need to be having.
And that's why I remember in the church they said, let not your will be done. Only God.
Oh, man. If there's anything that we wanted to stress in this series, is really just pay attention to people. Now, y'all know, because I have such a passion for the Black community, I absolutely refuse to stand on the side where it's these people are the reason for your problems, because I can't find that being an empowering message. What that says to me, what that just says is you will never be able to do anything about it until they change it. And that is such a powerless position. Free will is separate from choice. This is getting good. I did it again. I'm sorry. Okay. I prefer the language of mindfulness over control. Free will or not being mindful of what is in our mind shapes how we think of things. Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, so pay attention to folk. People are individuals, y'all. People are not labels. People are not monoliths. People are not defined by their cultures or experiences. People are not defined by our expectations of them. You can freely choose to believe in predestination. There is no way to know, so you just do your best, for sure. Absolutely. Oh man, I love it. Doesn't it feel good to have conversations like these, though? Like, but hey, doesn't it feel good to be able to say that you have a dissenting opinion without feeling like anybody's going to crucify you, without feeling like anybody's going to cancel you, without feeling like anybody's going to physically cripple you? Which, interestingly enough, like I don't know if y'all ever saw. I don't know if y'all know who Larry Flint is, but it was watching the movie of Larry Flint. What is it? I got to see it.
I just freely willed myself.
Hey, well, you know, there are some people who know how to make that happen. I've heard that actions affect beliefs, beliefs affects thoughts and feelings, for sure, for damn sure. Will seem subjective to your situations individually, will overlap in results because physics just are, for sure. And you know, that's really why it becomes paramount to really kind of, for lack of better words, respect other people's experiences, you know, especially if those experiences aren't generating harm anywhere, you know, because it's all helping us understand your will is determined by your past experiences. There is so much to that. That is not off at all. Because all right, okay, let me geek out for a little bit since y'all did it. y'all did it.
You see what he did there? Y'all did it.
Yeah, y'all did it. I'm blaming y'all. It's the blame game. Information known, and that's it. It's information known. It's so weird because we're still trying to crack the understanding between how we don't. It's so fugazi here, and I don't want to use the word fugazi. The will versus choice thing is harder to explain than sex versus gender. Oh my goodness, you are right. Damn, you are right. No, it is. Because, you know, I've talked about this concept before. Like, I don't use the word create very much, not intentionally in either. I use it like I use the word God, where it doesn't mean anything. Yes, right. And so, you know, I don't use the word create. This is my view. Do not judge me for this. I don't have any evidence to believe in anything being created. So even when it comes to art, I don't consider art creation. I consider everything that is generation. And in the sense that we very much as a species, very much just like everything else here, are input output. You know, our entire experience from what I've seen is very much input output. As a matter of fact, I teach an entire class on this, about how to change your life by changing your input, but using critical thinking. So I don't do positive thinking. I don't know if y'all have noticed this about me. I'm not a positive thinker. I'm a realist. I don't like to go too far on either of the spectrum. But the reason why I came to that conclusion is because I realized that the majority of not even the majority, all of the decisions we make are kind of already made. But it's not in some type of static way where this decision was made 10 years ago, and you know, someone 10 years ago knew you were going to make this decision. But it's just like all of the things that you expose yourself to shapes, in layman's terms, your ability to make those decisions. But in a more neurological aspect, it also shapes the information that your brain has to make decisions. And so the decisions that you think you're making in many times, or decisions that we think we're making in many times, are decisions that are already been made. And that's kind of what Maya was hitting at. Because we all have a take, and there isn't a right answer. It's a beautiful representation of how we can respect each other for our thoughts, without having to be in total agreement. Because like I don't have a reason to believe in total agreement. I don't even know if I don't even know if total agreement is necessary. And I think that's the hard thing. That this is how unscrupulous politicians can take advantage of us by making us feel that if we have anything that we disagree on, that we're enemies.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And I think like if you spend enough time with me, you're probably going to have a lot of things that you disagree with me about, which is why one of our values is disagreeing shouldn't lead to disappointment. I love philosophizing Plato style, dunking on fools by being the best at making shit up and sounding smart. I love it. I love it. Conflating will choice gets you to a wrong answer. There's separate words for a reason. I want to wrestle with that now. Polarization, absolutely. Us versus them. It's just not helpful unless you have control over them. The only way us versus them is ever helpful is if you have control over them, or if you're bigger than them, then it's kind of helpful. but yeah, so people are individuals, and that is typically how I like to treat people. And then people are survivors, and this is one that I think that we don't wrestle with enough. Every person you've met had to survive to get this far.
Had to survive. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. What if the person you meet is actually that individual's mask of survival? Because we can all look at our own lives. I know my life for the most part has been horribly traumatic, and so for a long time there was a really good mask that I wore, and it definitely kind of comes from the church world. You don't look like what you've been through, type of thing. And so no matter how I felt, I was always going to be smiling. He who dunks in fools must take care lest he become a fool. Maybe. I love it. Y'all are hilarious. It's something yes, if we are growing as people. I agree. The body stores trauma, and so does the psyche, and really does. I've seen some fascinating studies on Alzheimer's disease that shows kind of the implications of that. But I want you to consider that maybe if, every person you meet has been through a life maybe like yours and maybe responded to it differently, and this is something that I often challenge myself with more and more now, to try to be more empathetic for other people. Because, a lot of times I'd be like, I don't understand. I don't understand how anybody could be this way. Yeah. And now what I do is, instead of just saying I don't understand, if the body stores trauma, I'm full, right? Filled up to the teeth. I just made a new word, but it works. It works. But yeah, what if the people you meet are wearing masks, and so the person you think is not necessarily the person but it's the mask that they've put on because they think that's what they have to wear to survive. For years, I felt that I could not be disappointed, that others did not give me the right to be disappointed in them. So I always had to just smile through it. And pretend like, oh, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. Oh, yes, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I enjoy writing fiction for many reasons, but one of which is that it allows me to explore the different masks that people wear and why they put them on in the first place. And whether we're talking victims, villains, or victor, because some people put on the mask of the victor. Some people put on the mask of the villain. That's a mask that I'm willing to wear now. But you can blame Michael Rosenbaum's portrayal of Lex Luthor in Smallville for that. He's the best. Like, there is no other Lex Luthor than Michael Rosenbaum. Tearing away my mess. Yeah. And to be honest, I'm right there with you. Like, y'all are getting to know us now, but I am still taking off this mask. Every day, I am re-challenging, like, Darante, how much of you is you because you feel like you have to do this to make other people comfortable? And how much of you is you exploring yourself? After you've lost who you are, it's really hard. It's really hard. I know I started teaching a few years ago that a good exercise is just it's almost like pouring yourself out on the table. Just figure out who you are. Between anxiety and overweight, that has little to do with what and how much you eat. Absolutely, absolutely true.
So true.
And man, and this is, do y'all see how much this conversation has spanned the spectrum today? And every bit of it is helpful. Every bit of it is valuable. Every bit of it is viable. Apologize for being myself for over 40 years. Like that's what humanity has done to each other. That's what we've done to each other. And I mean, think about this. I mean, we're in the beauty of all of this technology, all of this information, all of these wonderful things, but we've harmed each other in so many different ways. And in many times, I think we've harmed each other's out of our own masks, you know? There's been an attempt to improve that. That's beautiful. Man, you aren't alone on that for damn sure. One thing that I do now, because I realize, and my wife would tell you, it was after deconverting where I realized how bad my mental health was for a long time. Where like I couldn't get through days without crying. I couldn't get through days without feeling like I was nothing. And these were feelings that I've been wrestling with my whole life, but I kept so bound up, you know, like wrapped up in that bandage of faith where you don't deal with these emotions. And so deconverting and deconstructing, I had to deal with a lot of that and realized that I had a lot of anxiety issues. And so now what I do for me, and again, I'm not anybody's prototype. I'm just sharing what's been helpful for me, is I don't treat me being anxious as weird. And so if I feel like there's some anxiety on my part, I communicate that to other folk now. And I let them know, hey, this was a high anxiety provoking event for me. Damn, Maya said she couldn't get to 15. When I saw everyone telling me that I was wrong, I said, y'all get on the same page about who I should be and report back. Until then, I'ma be me.
I love that.
Oh my goodness.
Was that a song?
I'ma be me. We need to write it. So you'll always fail trying to emulate him. That's so true, Tom. That's so true. Sending you further in the dark. That's a lot of, man, it's how we perceive what is respectful. Yes. Because I thought that speaking up for myself was disrespect. I had been told that speaking up for myself was disrespect. And that wasn't even just as a child, even as a grown ass man, I couldn't speak up to other pastors, you know? It was like, that's the man of God. Don't do that. Whew. Dang, this is good. Wow. I've discovered that some of the ugliest behaving people I've ever met were wearing a mask that they felt was absolutely necessary for their survival. And even now, I've learned how to have more graceful conversations with those people, you know, to better understand that hurt, you know, and that pain. You know, nobody really becomes a villain overnight. There was a great book. Mom told me, if you let people walk on you, they'll continue to walk on you. That's right. One of my mentor's wives, she said years ago, and mind you, this is a very patriarchal statement that she made, but it has a ring of truth to it. And she said, don't no woman want no weak man, but if she get one, she'll run him. Now, I never forget that quote. But it is very much true that you do enable people how to treat you, you know. But we have to make it safe for people to speak up for themselves. Beyonce from Song Girl, hey, nobody can judge me but me, bitches. Let me stop. I think we need a better way to express our negatives as well as our positive emotions, and you're right, on both spectrums. We need a better way, because sometimes our positive emotions can take us onto the deep end, and mine have definitely done that quite a few times. I've lost a lot of money over my positive emotions. A lot of money in my life. And as a man who's lived his entire life in poverty, that was not a good bet. but you're so right. But
someone into your life.
Someone into my life. Hallelujah. Blessed be. No, I was just being a dumbass. That's it. Just wasn't critically engaging. Just was not critically engaging at all. At all. That was a major part with my weight loss. It wasn't even about dieting. It was about realizing that now other people may not use this terminology. This was the terminology that I used, and it's a little dated. So I'm gonna try to find another word to say, because I don't want to use dated terminology. He lives to annoy me. That's hilarious. Um, it was realizing that I hadn't engaged eating critically at all.
Mhm.
Like I remember
Yeah.
sitting at the table one day and was like, "Oh yeah, food is for energy. I don't eat for energy. I eat because it smells good, because it tastes good,
You.
because it looked good,
Mhm.
you know, and all those things." I was like, "Dang, I can change that," and it was very big for me. Oh man, I also live to be agreed with. I love it. Now that could be a whole series right there. I live to be agreed with. Um, one of the questions I want you to all to consider as we're closing out today is how have we historically used our need to survive to manipulate others into dehumanization? And
Mhm.
maybe and that goes back to some of what some of you were saying earlier about those class struggles, that class consciousness. Been a homeless meth addict until it about killed me. Wow.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that, man. Thank you for that vulnerability. I do think that a lot of aspects of society will continue to be emotionally stifling, and that's a major factor of our collective discontentment, and it is, and that's why we're doing everything we can not to only be on the front lines building community, but to encourage everybody we know to do the same. Like I'm not going to be happy until Tom gets back stateside and builds
Yes.
a community where he is because we need it. Go somewhere you've never been. Be open to a world where you may not agree with, understand the person next to you. Then have a
Then
drink with them.
I'll take a Coke. I don't drink, but I drink Coke.
Well, I drink and I smoke.
I
So,
shouldn't.
hello. I don't know. I don't know people pay attention to me. I'm a professional street. This is hilarious. No. Like, Maya, you are a precious privilege to have here every time. Oh, this is beautiful. You need to level up to get to be. I know that's right. Y'all funny. And the last one for today's notes are just people are partners. Our individuality and the variety of experiences that we've each had, negative and positive, just to survive, just to be present, enables each of us to have something of value to offer the next. And I know sometimes I do say some things that are not popular, especially when it comes to politics and government. And it is because I am very much a power to the people type of person. And I want the people to remember their power. You know what I'm saying? And that is why we are very much progressive thinking and people centric. Yes, old
Old
style.
style.
I actually did used to have a pipe for my tobacco back in the day, it was funny. I got picked at. Have explored the alienating aspects of modern society and the disturbing effects it can have. My personal pick right now, 1993 Michael Douglas film Falling Down.
Falling down.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
His light shines with you, Maya, runs away. I'm a Marxist and I know what that means. I love it. I love it. Yes, yes. And so, as we conclude this conversation, here's some things to take home with you. What does humanity look like for you? How has what it means to be human been challenged, changed, or confirmed for your in these conversations? Yeah, I've never seen it. I've got to see it now. One for all and all for one makes God unnecessary for the day today and makes it a healthier option. Yes. I'm gonna have to look for that movie now. I definitely am. My eye is floating the fuck off, so I gotta bring it back. Okay, are we back? It's back. Okay. Um and can you see conversations like these being viable and helping us learn how to human together? And I mean, it's one thing to have these conversations online, and this is a great place to do so. But I cannot wait until we can have these conversations, in all types of physical meetups, or just not even just having them, but just cultivating them and fostering them. Yay! Yes. Don't forget to hit that like button. Dang, these comments are coming in. But it's also probably the most poignant critique of the plight faced by the American through the lens of middle class white male anger. Wow. Is that the one about the politician who puts the hit out on himself and then changes him? Oh, yikes. Look for the salt of the earth too. It's from my area. You will cry. Okay. And I am a crybaby, so I will do that. Um, this next part, just because I said we were going to mention it, so we're going to do it. This was a message. We have a how may we help form. And normally we'll read what people put in from that if it's relevant. But this was actually something that was shared in our Discord version, and so this is our how may we help Discord version. And this, well, I'm not going to say who it's from. They can claim it themselves. I like to think it's only gotten more relevant in 30 years since it came out. Wow. Try what I've been doing and do some deep self-reflection and acceptance of self. Yes. Here it is. Hey, folks, I know it's early in the morning for some of us, including yours truly, and this is a kind of a heavy subject for any time of day. But you know, one thing I can't stop thinking about is the issue of superstitious thinking resulting in self-destructive behaviors on a cultural level for different groups of people. And I wanted to highlight that, and we're definitely going to turn that into an entire conversation, because that's, you know, just speaking for me, that's my why. You know, when I share my stories in interviews about why I deconverted and why I stepped away from the pulpit, it's always around the damage that I saw taking. I love it, the damage that I saw in the community. You know, yes, for sure. Stop teaching. Like you have no idea how much I am in agreement with that. Like, because my community, if it isn't, an MLM, you know, and when I say my community, I want you to understand I'm not talking about the Black community as a whole. I can't speak for the Black community as a whole. And as a person who's data driven, I would not even attempt to without seeing the data. No joke. So yes. But so when I talk about my community, I'm talking about the people that I actually do community with, you know, so many of them, you know, if it isn't the blessing loon, I don't know if y'all remember that thing. We had so many people calling us. So many of them are following, you know, this Wall Street trapper guy, Billy Carlson, you know, Myron Goldman. Just, you know, it's scary because I know a lot of incredibly gifted and talented people and a lot of smart people who are literally destroying their lives every day, just by wasting time, because many of them believe that, you know, I can continue to do the same things over and over again and expect a different result, you know. To make Douglas' character sympathetic, even as it is not, in fact, the good guy in the story. Yep, that's good writing right there. That's good writing. I like that. But yeah, so that's we are going to turn that into a whole conversation because it's neat. Is that also a movie? Arkansas? Y'all, are you from Arkansas? Is that how you no? Arkansas is an S, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm confused. Okay.
Show me state.
Show me state. Yes, indeed. Okay, so next week's conversation, we're gonna deviate a little bit. Instead of going straight into the next series next Sunday we're gonna do a getting to know us kind of like interlude. So next Sunday we'll just be doing Q&A. We'll be talking back and forth. We'll be telling you a little bit more about ourselves. We might even let the kids jump on stream a little bit, talk about our marriage a little bit, our family dynamics, our work-life dynamics, and what we do with the LDD World Group and what our hopes are for the channel and all those great things. But to kind of whet your appetite a little bit, let me tell you, let me give you an idea of what the conversation series are going to be looking like over the next over the rest of the year, pretty much. So after the interlude, we'll be going into Please Don't Stop the Music. That will be our very next series. Show me state is Missouri. I've heard some people say Missouri. My ancestors were Celtic picked. Why should I worship the state religion of Rome or any religion? I know that's right. Cool. Here's the thing. I was actually talking about self-destructive behaviors on a cultural level, specifically how some folks put some invented sense of identity above all else. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to have a whole session series to it. But our next series after next week, again, next week we'll be doing Q&A. But after that, we want to start this conversation called Please Don't Stop the Music. And in this conversation, this one is not going to be much of a religious one. Worship corrupts both the object of worship and the worshipers. That is a profound statement. I just think about the team that can't pronounce their own name right. I love it. Yes. Oh, even when it's clearly hurting them, for damn sure. And this series, the Please Don't Stop the Music, our focus will be an exploration of ways to get the most out of your life without sacrificing your sanity. And so I'm going to expect all of us to have something to share in these. After that, we wanted to go into a conversation called Change My Mind for a few weeks. Talk about the temple and the evangelical. Ooh, right. It negates accountability to the object and causes false ideologies for the worshipers. Man, that is good stuff. Maya said her worshipers never get hurt. I love it. Oh, that reminds me of a scene out of American Gods now. I won't tell y'all which scene. But we're going to go into a series after that called Change My Mind. And in that one, we'll be exploring neuroplasticity and how mind change actually works. Love it. You are a special type of goddess, though, Maya. Go ahead now. After Change My Mind, we want to go into a conversation on trust issues. And this is just for the rest of the year. So obviously, we'll be in each of these for a few weeks at a time. But we'll go into trust issues and just really kind of talk about what does it mean for something or someone to be trustworthy, and how has religion, politics, and culture challenged or skewed the idea of trustworthiness. And I actually have a lot that's some things. After that, thank you, Carrie. After that, and this will probably be closer to the fall, winter time. We want to have a conversation called Drive. And where we really just kind of want to talk about like what's driving you and what are you driving? Isn't it going to get interesting though? Respect on, yes. Don't lie is on the way. I love it. Trust issues. It's going to get interesting. It's going to get interesting. And then after the drive, we want to have a conversation called The Work, where we just want to help people see the work that they can do to get back in the driver's seat of their own lives. And we want to have that conversation as a community with each other. We'll likely have some Discord conversations set aside for those afterwards, so we can kind of talk somewhat offline. And then after that one, I want to do one. I don't know if we want to call it community economics or human economics. I don't know. But this brings up some of the stuff that, because this seems to be a reoccurring theme in our conversations, which means this is on the mind of people. And so the big questions of that conversation is going to be, can capitalism and socialism coexist? That's going to be a fun one. And in that one, like, because I think many of you, man, stripped away by colonial forces. For sure, yes. That one, I'm gonna expect many of you to be very vocal. And one of the reasons we're kind of telling you in advance what these conversations are, because if you hear any of these conversations where you're like, that sounds right up my alley, then we want to include you on screen in these conversations. So that way we can platform a diversity of thoughts. The one thing that I've been kind of very clear about, I don't want everybody to agree with me. Oh, yeah. I don't want everybody to agree with me. You know, we do all this stuff together. We work together. And I'm really interested in hearing how you feel and maybe why you feel so strongly in certain areas. Oh, yeah. I love that.
Capitalism and socialist.
I love it. I love it. See, Eeyore, that may be one that we have to pull you on screen in conversation with. And I know, Maya, I'm just giving you a heads up now. This seems like a good one to pull you into the conversation with as well. But we'll either name it community economics or human economics. And the reason why, I'm kind of a graphics guy. And so community economics is what? CE, Common Era. And human economics is HE, Human Era. And I don't know if y'all have seen the Human Era calendar, but it's amazing. When I saw it, I was like, damn, I want to rewrite my whole fiction universe because I use, the whatever we use now. For sure. Yes. With the right restrictions. Oh, it's going to be a great conversation. Yes. See, that's what I'm loving. I love it. But see, and that's the thing. I don't think you have to be an expert to be able to bring value to conversation. Because it's not just what you say and how you say, it's the fact that this is another human being who's experiencing the world with us, and they have thoughts on their experience, But yeah, and then the last one that we have planned out, unfuckwithable. That'll be the last. That we'll probably use that one to close out the year. I don't know if I can fit all of these into this year. I'll try. And this one will be about how small communities can fight the tide of marginalization. So we'll, man, I want to make that the last conversation of the year, unfuckwithable, and where we're going to engage that conversation together. Bernie technically fall into that category. I can see that, though they still get labeled as socialists because Americans have such a skewed view.
Yeah.
Yes, economic politics. That is one of the reasons why I typically just kind of, when it comes to politics, I prefer to play devil's advocate, to make sure that when we're having these conversations that we're getting down to the main thing. So I think those are going to be great. But I think that's all we have for you today. We can go ahead and jump into. Oh, dang, there's another one. There is another one. Dang, there's more. Okay, I'm gonna give you the other ones. The looking glass. What impacts how we see the world? Do you see the world as half empty, half full? We'll be talking about the mindset mirror in that one, so that's going to be kind of cool. Mastermind, that is. Disagreement therapy. I forgot I put this one on here. That was pretty much today's conversation. You need a roadmap to get there. I love it. I love it. Government systems could be future subjects for our community to explore. Yes. That will be helpful in interactions outside of the community. Absolutely. I love that. Whatever works, for sure. And I am very much that person, whatever works. But disagreement therapy, exploring the dynamics of disagreement, and happy little mistakes. I came up with that idea yesterday, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. And that let me go. I'm gonna go ahead and put this note in my, and that's just finding grace in the mishaps of life. You know,
I love that. Finding grace.
You know, like all of your mistakes. You know, like, man, Maya, let's do that one together. I love it. I love it. So as you see, like we have plans to have some really awesome conversations, and our plans are to include as many people at these tables as possible, so that we can engage these conversations as a community and grow together, and maybe get some gold out of this thing, in the sense that we can start building things that actually give us something that as people, where we can finally say, you know what, I feel like we're headed in the right direction. You know, I think my whole life as a human, that's all I've ever wanted to feel, is just like we were going in the right direction.
And that ties into happy little mistakes.
Happy little mistakes. That's the happy little mistakes. That's it. I love it. Okay. What did I just close? All right, so babe, I'm gonna let you do the closing because I feel like I've talked so much.
We have few. Okay.
Oh.
What were the effects of a national prolonged economic strike? Ooh.
That is a thought experiment I'd be willing to engage. Credit Bob Ross work, and it is. That's exactly where that is. I plan on using some Bob references in the graphic for that one. Like, we're going in the right direction. That is so beautiful. Like, yes. Eesh.
And with that being said, thank you all for always tuning in and lasting this long from start to finish. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you, PC. She always jumps in and makes sure to say, hit that like button.
Yes.
Notification bell, subscribe if you haven't already, share with a friend, check out the merch. Volunteer. Hey, would you love to hang out with us a little more? We need your help.
We need your help.
So feel free to contact us. Darante's on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I just don't post there a lot. But feel free to message me. I still see messages and things of that nature. We do have a website, dldd.us. You can visit there to reach us and join our mailing list, our emailing list there. All right. If you're interested in supporting financially, when you can, and if you can,
yeah,
we definitely appreciate it. We made it easy for you. You can do super chat, super thanks. You can jump in the description to get all the links. Okay. And we use that financial support just to be transparent, to improve the quality and the quantity of the channel. If you see my husband all week, he be on it. Okay. He be on it with all the stuff we have to do. Besides this, it definitely helps. We also use your financial support to develop support resources and networks to accelerate community development globally. Even when we barely had any resources, we were doing things in the community before this. Those who know us a little longer, there's a lot that we plugged into. We started a homeschool co-op a few years ago. We were homeschooling kids for free with little support. We were doing Help and Hope boxes. We may start that again. So we do a lot for our community. We talk the talk and walk the walk. Okay.
All the way.
We also use it to develop projects and programs that support people-centric solutions. So we definitely appreciate those who support it already. But you just being here is a great support. So we definitely appreciate that. Any add-ons?
Amen. This Discord is best. We're brand new to Discord, and I am freaking loving it.
Yeah,
taxes are a form of that, but the priorities of government organizations are askew, in my opinion. Yep, absolutely. Which I kind of say it speaks to the educational crisis we have in this country. You're not going to get good government with bad education, in my opinion. When half of your Congress believes in talking snakes, you have some issues. Discord is exhausting, but there's so much you can do there. Like someone came up with the idea of doing karaoke night? Karaoke night on our Discord. So that is something I'm looking into. I'm hoping I keep doing it. I'm sorry, babe. No, you can go back. I'm gonna stop. I'll stop doing it. I'm hoping somebody else will take on organizing that. But if they don't, I will. It'll be monthly because that'll be about all I have the bandwidth for. But I think that'll be really, really awesome. Homeschools get a bad rep for being very fundy. There is some truth to that, but I homeschool because I live in such a fundy area. That was the exact same reason why we homeschooled. I'll post in the comments what I wrote about a labor strike. You'll like it. Ooh, awesome. Please do. Education 100% needs to be improved. Yes. I own or admin a dozen or more servers and mod others. It's easy. Really? We might have to get tightened into once we do get volunteers for our stuff to train our volunteers on Discord because I can't. So you basically homeschool for the opposite reason of a lot of folk who do. Yep, pretty much. And then just kind of speaking about volunteering, we want to really get these pre-sessions and post-session hangouts started and going strong. To be honest with you, I don't have the bandwidth. Like I don't, and this is why I did make the statement earlier that. Please bear with us. Things are going to be wonky until we can get people in. As you can see, not only am I producing the content that I produce, we have full-time jobs, we have children.
And all the graphics you see, my husband does himself.
I do all of my thumbnail graphics.
The intros, he does himself. He really does everything.
Everything. And so I don't have a lot of bandwidth yet. So for those of you who are signing up to volunteer, please be patient with us and understand that you're basically walking into no man's land and you're going to have to figure out a lot of shit on your own because that's what we all have to do. And the good news is you get to pave the way for the people who will come after you. You'll be able to create a whole playbook to moderate them places like Reddit and Twitter. Oh, yes. I can imagine. Use it, copy it, share it. I love it. Okay. We normally go into our invitations and do the forms at the end of each Sunday session. I'm going to give y'all a break a little bit. We will drop the forms in the chat. So, we'll drop the links rather to the forms in the chat. So any of those of you who are interested in learning more about the work that we do or getting connected to this community experiment that we call Bridge City, or experimenting with building community where you are, physical community, with this experiment that we call The Bridge, you can use either one of these forms to let us know. And if you just have any feedback for our Sunday sessions and for this growing community that you'd like us to be mindful of, maybe it's something you need, maybe it's something you need more of, maybe it's something you think that other people may need more of, let us know. It's a very simple "How may we help you" form. Yeah. Oh, thank you, man. Yep, we all got to do it ourselves out here. It's rough. It's too many notifications when you're, who likes to clear up. HR, I 100% agree because I am the same way. I have to clear out my notifications. They cannot be sitting there. Oh, man. That's beautiful. Okay. Have we said everything?
Yeah, I think we did.
First lesson. No, turn off the notifications. Listen, I know I've said this probably a million times. Well, obviously I'm being hyperbolic here, but I know I've said this a lot in today's conversation, and probably in all of our conversations. But I sincerely do love each and every one of you. This y'all have not. As a former pastor, this is very therapeutic for me. You know, it was terrifying to think what my life would be like on the other side. And so to have a safe place on Sundays to still have conversation with communities, and to not feel like it's bound by superstition. This is incredibly healing for me, incredibly therapeutic for me. And like I leave each and every one of these every Sunday with a huge smile on my face and just feeling like we've accomplished something. 100% the first things I do if I'm not a mod is turn off all notifications. I believe it. But thank you all. We love you all so much. Thank you for participating. Please don't forget to catch Maya tonight with Bad Science Sunday, of course. You got to remember which one it is, don't you? Is it there? Yeah. But Bad Science Sunday, we'll definitely be trying to be in the chat in ourselves. Florida Holy Roller Church. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I remember them type of churches. I'm not too far from Florida myself. I'm in Alabama. But we love y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. If any of those forms interest you, fill them out. And for those of you who have the unction to do so, I encourage you, start experimenting with community wherever you are, man. But we love y'all. Thank y'all so much. Until next time, keep rising. And also, because this is kind of Bridge City now, so until next time, be the bridge. We'll holler at y'all.